120,000 buyers in negative equity. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your piping hot stein of coffee, and we're going to have a look at an article which is discussing, well, the people who bought at the peak, and are now, well, some of them guaranteed are going to be in negative equity, particularly those that jumped in under those 5 and 2% schemes by the government. Now, the sad thing is we see stories of people who went in at 2%, single parents, and who are now struggling because interest rates are going up. For those of you playing at home, we can see the cash rate there, and more are predicted. I've got another article we'll look at where Lowe is warning of increasing rate hikes. What did you expect? The rates were at 0.1%. They were always going to go high. It was only a matter of time. Were people just hoping everything would work out differently in 2024? So, 120,000 pandemic buyers are likely underwater. Those who bought during the pandemic boom are likely finding themselves in negative equity. And now that doesn't mean they're instantly going to be forced to sell. The bank isn't going to turn the screws on them saying, you know, it's not like a margin call. Honestly, if you're out of trouble, if you just keep... What it's going to mean is you're stuck with that bank. It means you won't be able to change. I don't even know. Could you refinance with another bank? And you're not going to be in much of a negotiating position until your LVRs get into a much more healthy situation. But if you're still meeting all your repayments and you're going okay, you should be fine in the long run. But it's the people that FOMO'd in, believed all the hype, and are now in trouble, honestly. So let's check this out. About 120,000 Australians who bought homes with low deposit loans at the end of the pandemic boom are likely to have already fallen into negative equity, according to data from CoreLogic and Standard & Poor. Now, because this is 120,000, it's more than just the people who got the government handouts or the government guaranteed home loans. A total of 289,125 homeowners who purchased between November 21 and April 22, when house prices were high, were also getting closer to negative equity as prices fell 8.9% from their peak, according to the Australian Financial Review. Now, if you're a homeowner, do you really, honestly, do you care what your house is valued at? I mean, okay, I know it's fun to think, oh, look at all that money, that just capital growth I made there by being such a property genius. I happened to buy at the right time. I know, you're working on that course for Facebook. You've got all the ads ready. You're going to do your Google Analytics, and you'll be telling people how you built an empire with a whiteboard. They always have to have a whiteboard. But I mean, unless you're using that equity, you're leveraging it for other things, and if you keep making all your repayments, you're not really going to rock the boat, are you? It's going to reduce your bragging ability at a barbecue. That's the truth, isn't it? Because we all know your worth in Australia is the value of your house or houses. That's how our society is. I'm only half joking. It really feels like it, doesn't it? Oh, it's a good coffee. So, the figures based on CoreLogic records show that 1.188 million homes were sold between March 30, 2020 and April 30, 2022. And S&P's estimate that more than 40% of new mortgages taken during the pandemic boom were low deposit loans, the AFR reported. What is the definition of low deposit? I'm assuming anything under 20%. I'm just guessing that. Let me know in the comments if it's less than that. Experts say that many of these homes could be worth less than their mortgage within months, especially if, as some economists predict, the cash rate rises to 4.1%. Home prices have been driven down from their pandemic peaks thanks to 9 consecutive rate hikes by the Reserve Bank. And, well, they were also insanely inflated by the government coming to the rescue, everyone. You know what? Let me, well, not GDP. Well, that shows you we've been in a recession. But I just want to show you one slide in this stack. And that's look at the one under the 5 and 2% there. You've got negative gearing, that's part of our culture. But the super withdrawals, there's not really much mention of those super withdrawals because that was instantly what? You got 20 grand out in a couple, 40 grand out. That's a deposit. And I know the banks are going, well, it's not my, well, actually, no, it's not a deposit. Well, it's a chunk of a deposit, or it's a low deposit. How many of these people here that are in negative equity use their super to get in? And can you blame them? Because in 5, 10, 15 years' time, they'll probably be fine. They'll have a home, they'll have some stability, they'll have a little bit less super, but they'll have less stress. I'm frustrated that you've got all this money just sitting there in your superannuation that you couldn't get access to, you couldn't use to buy a home. I mean, I would have bought a home much earlier and would have been in a much better position with regards to, either or, to be quite honest. But if I was in Sydney, you would have bought early and the property would have gone insane. Brisbane's gone nuts recently, but it's not deserved. It's not going to last. You know, you won't be seeing a course from Florian anytime soon about, genius property hacks. It'll be save money on your dodgy property rebuild by learning how to mix your own concrete. Oh. Anyway, let's check this out. Keep going. There's little evidence so far that households are under mortgage pressure, the AFR reported. However, S&P's performance index found that mortgage arrears are starting to rise at a faster pace. Yes, they certainly are. And I'll look at that in another video, but it's still really low. I mean, it's just really low, guys. This is the thing. You've got to remember, the negative news will get the eyeballs. So we'll be seeing article after article. I'm just expecting a whole lot of sob stories from the ABC. It's pretty much every day now that a builder's going under. Across these borrowers, first homeowners with limited saving buffers are more at risk of mortgage stress, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne, where property price falls have been more pronounced and household indebtedness is generally higher. Aaron Kitson, director of S&P Global Ratings, told the AFR. I was talking to a viewer the other day. He got the shits with Sydney, moved up to north side of the Gold Coast, and now he's living the dream. Got a house that much more easy to afford than in Sydney. There you go. I mean, that's one thing Aussies need to consider. Why the hell are you staying in Sydney and Melbourne? Okay, I think it's mainly for family. People don't want to move in this country. I mean, you can fly around the country for like nothing. I remember when I was driving down to Mount Kosciuszko back in my uni days. I wanted to climb the highest mountain in Australia. And I was driving in an old 88 Camry. It was the family car that I'd been given. And it was a bit of, doing the job. It had done a lot of kilometers. And the alternator kept... the alternator. It kept, stopping. So, you know what? Just checking to make sure I'm saying the right thing. Yeah, kept stopping. So I had to keep getting out of the car and tapping it to ensure that it kept charging the battery so I didn't run out of power. I got up the mountain, I climbed there. Snow and lots of flies. It was summer. And I came back and I ended up getting the brushes replaced for $20. But I don't know why I'm going on that. Oh, that's it. The point of the story was, as I was driving from Sydney to Canberra, the cost of a flight from Sydney to Canberra was cheaper than the petrol I would have to spend making that trip in my old Camry. So there you go. So enjoy the flights while you still can before the greenies ruin it all. Anyway, arrears are creeping up. Prime mortgages increased in December 0.76% from 0.65% the previous month, but non-conforming mortgage arrears, including low deposit and large amounts, continue to rise, reaching 3.2% in December from 2.66% in November, the AFR reported. That's more pronounced than in previous years, Kitson said. The arrears cycle typically peaks around January and February. The magnitude of arrears increases this year is likely to be greater than in recent years, given the steep increase in interest rates and Australia's RMBS sector's high exposure to variable rates, she told the AFR. Arrears are rising off historic lows and remain below long-term averages, but as interest rates continue to rise, this state of affairs is likely to change. Yeah, we'll probably hit averages again. Insolvencies. We're seeing, the construction apocalypse, a builder every day, pretty much, at the moment. People are sending me stuff. I'm having to spread them out, guys, so I don't have them all on one day of videos. But it's just returning back to normal. It's going back to normal rates. Is that what we're seeing here? How many people were trading while insolvent in their construction company and use that, and now they can't anymore, so they're going in arrears on their mortgages. So listings are still low. Yeah, people aren't selling. They don't need to. I don't think they needed to during the COVID pandemics, but they wanted to cash in. They saw it was a mania. It was hysteria to go along with everything else, so they sold. Eliza Owen, head of research for CoreLogic, told the AFR that the lower volume of listings, which is currently 25% below the 5-year average, would help slow the rate of price declines that could compel owners to sell. There's no strong evidence of large-scale forced selling so far, Owen said. New listings over the past 12 months have fallen short of annual transactions at around 477,000. So there's still a bit of supply-demand imbalance that might be insulating the downturn. As it is, we've seen nothing but a broad improvement in some of our key housing market indicators coming into January, which we largely attribute to the ongoing lack of listings. The monthly pace of decline in national home values has been shrinking since August, and clearance rates are broadly improving from where they were at the end of last year, everyone. So you know what, I'm going to just check to make sure. Okay. However, sharp drops in house prices have likely put many New South Wales residents who bought during the pandemic boom into negative equity, the AFR reported. During the COVID boom, 376,462 homes were sold in New South Wales, with around 83,276 buyers transacting at the height of the boom. So they call it the peak of the boom. It's just bad luck, isn't it? That's just how it is. It's like when you're buying shares or when you're trying to time a market, it's bloody difficult. Data from the PEXA shows that during 2021, 34% of these purchases were made with higher risk loans of 90% or above loan to value ratio. So that's what they're talking. A low deposit is 10%. That share fell to 30% in 22. That means about 26,648 homeowners may already be underwater since prices tumbled 13.9% from their peak, the AFR reported. Okay, less than 30,000. That's sad for those people, but I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's not significant in the grand scheme of things. Sure, you may have some edge cases pull some suburbs down, but I mean, how many people are just going to push through? You don't fight to get into a house in Australia to just drop the ball. I'd like to see how many, they're talking about high-risk loans, but I'd like to see how many are homeowners as opposed to investors. That's where we want to see the breakdown here. In Victoria, 260,000 homes were sold during the COVID-19, with 66,478 of those sales occurring at the tail end of the boom. 1 in 3 are likely to fall into negative equity in the next few months. In Queensland, 294,000 homes were sold during the pandemic boom. Yeah, they sold to get out of Victoria, and a whole load of them came to Queensland and bought there. With 73,517 of those sold in late 21 and early 22. Of those, about a third are likely already underwater after prices dropped 10.7% from their peak. And, well, if we have a look here, everyone, let's look at the asking prices in Brisbane, and you can see how it's perfectly reasonable for prices to just jump that much in such a short time. Come on, look at that. Look at that. Yeah. Property in Australia. It's our state religion. It's bigger than sport. So, the rate hike squeeze. Shane Oliver, chief economist at AMP Capital, said the impact of the RBA's repeated rate hikes is starting to squeeze household budgets. We're getting into the critical point here in terms of the interest rate tightening cycle, and therefore the risks are getting a lot higher, he told the AFR. You just don't know what the tipping point is for the property market. The RBA could raise rates a lot more from here and there's no impact, or we'll have just one more move and you can be in trouble. Well, let's have a bit of a talk. So just one more move and we could be in trouble also means that we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, honestly, that's what it is. They don't know what's going to happen. I mean, that's the fun and the games of it, guys. That's the things to consider. So, potentially 120,000 buyers in negative equity in a few months as rates keep going up higher. Is that going to be an issue, though? That's the question. Should it be something that we're worried about? Let me know in the chat, guys, if you're in negative equity. Do you care? I mean, your social status may take a peg at the next property meeting convention where the actual running of the entire country is organized. Or you know that, don't you? Every property owner gets a say in the running of the country and controls all the laws in the secret government. Everything else is just for show. It's just for show to keep the renters at bay. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Check out my other channels, HeiseBim and Heise Does. And if you're a fan and want to support us, you can on YouTube or Patreon. Use our referral links, buy our pocket squares, or call us if you need an architect. And thank you very much for the viewer who brought this article to my attention. I appreciate it when you all email and send me things, even if I can't get to them sometimes, because life's just crazy. But thank you very much. Take care, and I'll see you all next time.